What do you mean we lost 2 trucks last week to axle damage? Gregory Palmer stood in the corner of the warehouse office, arms crossed, trying to keep his voice steady. The district manager, a sharp-suited man named Chase, tapped a clipboard and shrugged. Wear and tear. These trucks run hard, Greg. It's part of the game. Gregory didn't buy it. He'd inherited the delivery chain from his father 3 years ago, 17 locations across the Midwest, all of them handling everything from furniture to appliances. When he first took over, he spent his nights learning the books, the logistics, the numbers. He knew how things were supposed to operate, and something didn't add up. The trucks were breaking down more. Insurance claims were up. Customer complaints were rising. His gut told him it wasn't wear and tear. It was something else. Still, Chase brushed every concern aside with a smile and a spreadsheet. We're doing better than ever, he kept repeating. Gregory wasn't convinced. So he decided to go undercover. He chose the warehouse in Fort Dodge, Iowa store number 9. It was mid-tier, just busy enough to be important, but not so big it'd draw attention. He'd never been there in person. The staff had no clue what he looked like. His father had always stayed behind the scenes, and Greg had followed that same quiet path. He grew out his beard, wore a fake pair of glasses, and ditched the dress shoes for steel-toe boots. His name, for now, was Gabe. He applied for a temp loader position through a staffing agency that frequently worked with the company. 2 days later, he was in. Hey, you the new guy, a short, broad-shouldered man barked as he walked past a row of idling trucks in the early morning light. Yeah, Gabe, Gregory said, adjusting the bill of his cap. Name's Derek. Lead driver. Stick close today. We're behind. Inside the warehouse, Gregory was hit with the scent of diesel, sweat, and coffee that had been left too long on a burner. There were 5 guys moving fast loading washers, couches, and boxed beds into the backs of trucks. The warehouse manager, a wiry man named Kevin, was pacing along the dock, barking at everyone. No breaks till we're caught up. Let's go, let's go. Kevin shouted. Gregory lifted a boxed recliner onto a dolly with another worker named Luis. Luis was quiet, focused, and clearly knew what he was doing. You been here long? Gregory asked. 3 years, Luis said, then nodded toward Kevin. That guy's been running the place into the ground for half of it. Gregory didn't ask more. He just observed. Midway through the shift, Derek waved him over. You're riding with me today. Grab your vest. Gregory followed him to truck 12, a long, aging box truck that already looked overloaded. Wait, this is all going in one trip? Gregory asked, frowning. Derek snorted. You want to make 3 trips today? I don't. We stack it right, it holds. But the company's policy don't pay for gas. Derek cut him off, slamming the truck door. Now hop in. Gregory climbed in, heart pounding. The ride was bumpy. The truck groaned at every stop sign. At one point, they hit a pothole, and he heard something shift in the back. Is that safe? He asked. Derek shrugged. If it gets there, it's safe enough. They made 6 deliveries. At the 3rd house, a customer opened their fridge and found a dent. She started to complain, but Derek cut her off with a fake smile and a clipboard. Call customer service. We just deliver. By the time they returned to the warehouse, it was nearly dark. Derek peeled off his vest and tossed it into the cab. That's how we hustle around here, he said. Gregory said nothing. He walked back inside, found Kevin and asked, Is this normal? 1 truck, that much weight? Kevin looked up from his tablet. If Derek's doing it, it's getting done. You got a problem with that? Gregory shook his head slowly. Just trying to learn. Then don't ask dumb questions. Gregory walked away, jaw tight. In 2 days, he'd seen corners cut, trucks overloaded, and customers brushed off. And the worst part? It wasn't a mistake, it was the system. That night, he sat in his motel room and stared at the cracked ceiling. He rubbed his temples and whispered, "What the hell happened to my company?" The next morning started before sunrise. Gregory pulled into the lot behind the warehouse just after 5. A cold wind swept across the yard, rattling a stack of wooden pallets near the fence. Inside, the lights flickered overhead as workers trickled in, rubbing tired eyes and nursing paper cups of black coffee. Kevin was already barking orders. "Get Zone 3 cleared before 6, or we're not making first route. I want every dolly rolling in 10 minutes. Gregory kept his head down and joined Luis near the back wall, where a line of headboards leaned against a bay door. Luis handed him a scanner gun without a word. "You sleep?" Gregory asked after a moment. Luis gave a short nod. 4 hours. Got a second job unloading freight at the rail yard. Nights. Gregory blinked. That's intense. You got kids, you do what you have to. Before Gregory could reply, Kevin stormed over, jabbing a finger at Luis. "I need you running dispatch today." Jeremy called out again. "You know the route sheets." Luis gave a quick nod.
"Yeah."
Then stopped chatting and move. After Kevin walked off, Gregory leaned in. "You do dispatch too?" Luis shrugged. "Whatever keeps me on the schedule." Gregory watched him walk off toward the office trailer. It was barely 6 and the guy was already being asked to switch roles.
Not a good sign.
"Hey, new guy, you're with me today." Gregory turned. A woman in her early 30s stood there, arms crossed. She wore a frayed company jacket and had 2 pens tucked behind her ear.
"I'm Tanya."
"Truck 5. We're running north route. Come on." They loaded 2 recliners, a dining set, and a boxed treadmill into the back. Tanya checked the straps twice before they left, muttering to herself and adjusting tie-downs Gregory hadn't even noticed were loose. On the road, she kept a steady hand on the wheel, glancing at her manifest at each light. "You always drive?" Gregory asked. "Only when I got someone I trust not to break an ankle on the ramp. Most of these guys, they just want to get it done. Doesn't matter how it looks when it gets there." "You ever report that?" She gave a low laugh. "To who? Kevin? The guy who thinks safety checks are a waste of time? Please." They made 4 stops before noon. At each one, Tanya handled the paperwork, spoke politely to customers, and made sure everything was placed where it should be. At the last house, an older man offered her a tip. "Company policy," she said, waving it away with a smile. "But thank you, sir." Back in the truck, she leaned back and exhaled. Guy like that makes it worth it. Most folks just grunt and close the door. Gregory nodded, watching the road pass by. They pulled into a gas station just before heading back. While Tanya went inside, Gregory stood near the pump and noticed a second truck pulling in. It was Derek. His truck looked even more overloaded today, stacked to the top with mattresses and sectionals. The rear suspension sagged visibly. Derek hopped out, laughing with the young guy riding with him. "Told you it'd hold." The kid looked uneasy. "Yeah, but don't worry about it. If it breaks, it breaks. Not our dime." Gregory stepped forward. "That truck looks way over." Derek looked him up and down. "Still playing warehouse cop, rookie?" "I'm just saying it looks dangerous." Derek leaned in. "You want to keep working here? Then shut up and lift." Gregory didn't respond. Tanya stepped out of the gas station carrying 2 coffees. She read the tension immediately. "Everything good?" Gregory nodded.
"Yeah."
"Let's roll." Back at the warehouse, Kevin was pacing outside the trailer, phone pressed to his ear. "I don't care what your doctor says, Kyle. If you don't show up tonight, don't bother coming back." He hung up and spotted Tanya. "You got the manifests?" "Signed and complete," Tanya said, handing him the clipboard. Kevin barely glanced at it before tossing it onto a pile. "You're back with Derek tomorrow. Short on drivers." "I'd rather solo." Not up for debate. Gregory watched her jaw tighten. She turned and walked back toward her truck without another word. He followed. You okay? She opened the back of the truck and started pulling out empty straps. You ever get the feeling nobody's driving this bus? Every minute I'm here. She looked at him, searching his face. You're not just some temp, are you? Gregory hesitated. What makes you say that? You ask too many questions. You listen. Temps don't care that much. He thought quickly. Used to run a small loading team back home. I see things differently. Well, keep seeing them. But don't let Kevin catch you doing it. By the time Gregory clocked out, his clothes were soaked through with sweat and his hands were raw. He walked past the trailer where Kevin was on another call, shouting again. Inside the warehouse, two workers were arguing over a missing pallet and no one seemed interested in stepping in. He found Luis in the corner, typing something into a computer. You good? Gregory asked. Luis didn't look up. Been better. Kevin just told me I'm covering night shift too. Said I already know the system. Gregory blinked. That's a 12-hour day. Luis gave a hollow laugh. More like 14. But I need the hours. Gregory felt something twist in his chest. You tell anyone above him? Luis looked at him for the first time. Above him?
Who's that?
Kevin is the top of the mountain here. Gregory walked out of the warehouse and sat in his car for 10 minutes. His hands were shaking. This wasn't just about overloaded trucks anymore. This was about a culture of exploitation, one where good people like Tanya and Luis were being run into the ground while men like Kevin and Derek operated unchecked. He turned the key and drove to a strip mall 2 towns over where a regional office sat behind tinted glass. He stepped inside and walked straight to the front desk. I need to see the regional HR director.
Now.
The receptionist looked startled. Do you have an appointment?
No.
But tell her Gabriel Martin is here. She'll want to take this meeting. She picked up the phone. A moment later, a woman in a navy blazer stepped into the lobby, cautious.
Dada.
You said Gabriel Martin. Gregory took off his glasses and hat. My name is Gregory Palmer. I own this company. He watched her eyes widen. We need to talk. Now. Dana shut the door behind her, her heels clicking against the polished floor as she led Gregory into a small, glass-walled conference room. No one else was inside. She lowered the blinds with a tug on the cord before sitting across from him. I wasn't expecting this, she said cautiously. I didn't want anyone to, Gregory replied, resting his calloused hands on the table. I've been working out of the Fort Dodge warehouse for the last 3 days. Dana blinked. Wait, you mean as an employee? He nodded. Frontline loader.
Rode routes.
Observed the site manager, the drivers, the conditions. Dana leaned back slowly. What did you see? You'll get a full report by the end of the day. But here's the summary. Policy violations, overworked staff, unsafe loads, and a manager who's either negligent or actively covering up bad practices. Her posture stiffened. That's a serious accusation. I'm not accusing, he said. I'm stating facts I saw with my own eyes. And I'm not leaving this building until we start doing something about it. Dana opened a notebook and clicked her pen. Names. Kevin is the warehouse manager. Derek is one of the senior drivers. Both are central to the problems. There's a loader named Luis. He's doing the work of 2 people and being pushed to exhaustion. Another driver, Tanya, runs clean but gets sidelined for speaking up. Dana wrote quickly, her brow furrowed. I'll initiate a formal review, effective immediately. I need to bring in compliance. This doesn't wait. It really doesn't. Kevin's not just ignoring safety, he's creating the conditions for something catastrophic.
Dana stood.
Give me 20 minutes. I'll get the director of operations on a call. Don't go anywhere. Gregory stayed seated, watching her disappear through the frosted door. He stared down at his hands' bruised knuckles, grease trapped beneath his nails. He flexed his fingers slowly, letting the silence settle. 25 minutes later, Dana returned with a man in a navy vest following behind her. He had a permanent squint, like someone used to scanning spreadsheets in dim lighting. "This is Will," Dana said. "Ops director. He's been with us for 12 years. Will shook Gregory's hand. "Heard you've been digging through one of our tougher sites." Gregory nodded. "That's one way to put it." "I won't sugarcoat anything," Will said, taking a seat. "That location's had turnover issues for a while. We knew morale was down, but I didn't know it was what you're describing." Gregory leaned forward. "You've got a manager who uses intimidation as management, a lead driver who ignores safety regulations, and a system that rewards speed over quality. You've also got employees being crushed under the workload with no support. This isn't a culture issue. This is a leadership failure." Will folded his hands. "What do you want to do?" "We're going there.
Now. Today.
I'm walking in as myself. And I want HR and compliance there with me. We're not making phone calls or sending emails. We're fixing it in person." Will hesitated, then nodded once. "I'll notify the regional team. We'll be on site by 4. By 3:45, 4 unmarked cars pulled into the Fort Dodge lot. Gregory stepped out first, wearing a clean black jacket, his beard trimmed down. Dana and Will followed, joined by an HR investigator and a compliance officer with a thick binder under his arm. The warehouse buzzed with the usual chaos. Kevin stood near Bay 3, tapping on his phone, oblivious. Gregory walked up to him without a word and stood silently until Kevin looked up. "Can I help?" Kevin froze. "Wait. You're Gregory Palmer," he said bluntly. "Owner. Effective immediately, step away from the floor and into the office trailer. You're being relieved of all authority pending investigation." Kevin blinked, then scoffed. "You can't just walk in, I can." And I did. Dana stepped forward. "You'll be escorted to the office. Say nothing to staff. From this moment on, all communications go through HR." Kevin's mouth opened, but a glance at the compliance officer's ID made him stop. He walked stiffly toward the trailer, 2 officials shadowing him. Gregory turned toward the loading crew. A few heads had turned already. Tanya stood near truck 5, frozen mid-lift, her eyes locked on him. Luis peeked around a stack of box chairs, confusion etched across his face. Gregory stepped onto the dock. "Everyone, stop what you're doing and come in for a floor meeting."
Now.
The workers gathered slowly, uncertain. Gregory stood at the center of the warehouse, hands at his sides. "My name is Gregory Palmer. I own this company. For the past 3 days, I've been working here under the name Gabe." A few murmurs rippled across the group. Eyes widened. Tanya crossed her arms. Luis's mouth parted slightly, but he said nothing. "I came here undercover because I didn't trust what I was hearing from upper management. I wanted to see the truth for myself. And I did." He paused, scanning each face. "Some of you have been holding this place together with grit and integrity. You've been doing the right thing, even when it wasn't easy. Others have been cutting corners, ignoring safety, and treating people like they're disposable." Derek walked out of the break room, half a sandwich in hand. His eyes landed on Gregory, and his face paled. "You," Gregory said, pointing. "Come here." Derek approached, chewing slowly. "You knowingly overloaded company trucks multiple times. You falsified load sheets. You dismissed valid safety concerns from your coworkers. Is that correct?" Derek swallowed. "I was just doing what Kevin told me. We've been short-staffed. That's not what I asked. Did you overload trucks?" Derek looked around.
Yeah.
"Sometimes. You're done here. Turn in your ID and keys. You're being terminated effective immediately for gross misconduct and policy violations." Derek's jaw twitched. "I got seniority. You had responsibility. You've abused it. You're done." 2 security staff guided him toward the office. Gregory turned back to the crew. "This ends today. No more overloads. No more pushing past legal hours. No more intimidation. This warehouse will be restaffed, retrained, and fully audited. He looked at Luis. You've been asked to cover multiple shifts while others skipped out. That's over. Starting next week, you're on a fixed schedule with full-time pay and benefits. If you want to move into a supervisor development track, we'll make that happen. Luis didn't respond immediately. Then he nodded once and looked down, stunned. Gregory found Tanya next. You've been doing the job right. You've upheld every delivery standard and kept customers satisfied despite pressure to cut corners. If you're willing, I want you to help lead a new safety training initiative across the region. Extra pay. No more co-drivers who ignore protocol. Tanya's jaw tightened. You're not just saying that? I don't say things I won't do. She nodded slowly. Then I'm in. Gregory turned back to the group. This company was built by people who cared about doing things right. Somewhere along the way, we let speed and numbers replace integrity. That stops now. There's going to be pain as we rebuild, but you're not alone in it. I'll be here, and I'll be back.
He looked around one last time.
Every worker had their eyes fixed on him. Dana stepped forward. New policies, additional hires, and a wage reevaluation will start rolling out this week. You'll also have access to a private reporting line for any concerns going forward. No more gatekeepers. The meeting ended quietly. Workers drifted back to their stations, talking in low voices. Gregory walked toward the open bay door, where the wind had picked up again. Tanya caught up to him. That was a hell of a thing you did. It shouldn't have come to this. No, she said. But it did. And now people are watching again. Gregory looked out at the lot, where Derek's truck still sat idle. He exhaled, long and slow. Next time, he said quietly, I'm not waiting for the numbers to tell me something's wrong. I'll be out here before it gets this far. She nodded once and walked back to her outsheet. Gregory stood still for another minute, letting the cold air hit his face. Then he went inside. There was still work to do. The following week brought an unfamiliar quiet to the Fort Dodge warehouse, not silence, but a different kind of noise. Gone were the shouted threats and the frantic scrambling. Instead, there was measured movement, clipped conversations, and a cautious sense of order that hadn't existed before. Gregory returned without disguise this time. He didn't stand apart from the operation, he blended into it. Not with a clipboard or a speech, but by walking the floor without pretense, asking short, specific questions, and listening carefully to the answers. He didn't try to fix everything at once.
He knew better than that.
But he knew where to start. Luis stood at the dispatch station, scanning route manifests. His eyes were red-rimmed, but his posture was straighter than it had been. There were 2 new hires shadowing him, both wearing fresh vests and moving with the nervous precision of people trying to get it right. You managing all right? Gregory asked as he stepped beside him. Luis didn't look up immediately, but when he did, there was a flicker of wry amusement in his face. I've had to explain the difference between a split route and a double drop 3 times today. Sounds like onboarding's working. They're eager. One of them asked if we get paid extra for ice storms. You tell him the truth? Luis chuckled under his breath. Not yet. Let him enjoy week 1. Gregory nodded. You let me know when you're ready to hand off dispatch full-time. I'm not rushing it. Luis glanced around before replying. I'll get there. Just want to make sure no one drops the torch. Across the warehouse, Tanya was kneeling beside a new driver and demonstrating how to secure a treadmill with corner guards and industrial straps. She wasn't lecturing, she was showing. Hands-on, deliberate, efficient. The driver followed her lead, adjusting the strap with a corrected grip after a small nod from her. Gregory waited until she stepped away from the truck before approaching. You ever think about writing a training manual? I prefer showing people how not to crush a washing machine. That method's working. You've got 3 new hires who've asked to ride with you next week. Tanya leaned against the bay door and crossed her arms. I'll rotate them through. I don't want any of them thinking there's only one right way to do the job. You still okay with the safety initiative?
Yeah.
But I want more than posters. We need real refreshers. Monthly. And we need someone to review routes for weight compliance before drivers even touch the keys. You'll have budget for that. I'll get operations to prioritize it. She tilted her head slightly. You're not going to vanish on us again, are you? No, Gregory said. I'm not. From the far end of the warehouse, Will approached with a printout in hand. Final audit results came through. Want to see them? Gregory took it. The numbers were clear. Route completion rates had dipped slightly with the safer load rules, but damage claims had dropped by over 40% in 1 week. Customer satisfaction scores had stabilized, and overtime had fallen not because of fewer hours, but because shifts were finally being scheduled with balance. You see the note from HR? Will asked. About the hotline usage?
Yeah.
3 reports already. 2 of them detail past issues that didn't come up before. One's a current concern. A new loader said he felt rushed by a driver to skip a tie down. We're reviewing it. Gregory nodded.
Good.
I want us to treat this like we're a startup again. We're not too big to listen. Will hesitated. You know, Chase from corporate called me twice since the change. He's worried we're setting a precedent. We are, Gregory said. One I'm willing to defend. In the break room, Gregory found a small mess on the table: half-eaten sandwiches, wrinkled napkins, a few open bottles of sports drinks. But the mood was lighter. No one jumped when he walked in. No one froze. He sat beside a guy named Marcus, one of the newer hires. Marcus looked up from his sandwich. You're the owner, right?
Yeah.
Marcus wiped his hands on his jeans. So, is this place always going to be like this now? Or is this one of those, until corporate forgets things? Gregory shook his head. If it slips, I'll be back out here again. Same boots, same hours. You'll know when it happens. Marcus grinned. All right, I'll hold you to that. The following day, an HR rep met with every employee on site individually. No group sessions, no surveys, just honest one-on-ones. It wasn't about collecting data. It was about listening without intermediaries. Gregory stayed out of those rooms. He didn't need to hear everything. What mattered was that someone finally did. By the end of the week, a new regional safety coordinator had been assigned. Not from corporate, but from within. Tanya had handpicked someone from another site who'd built a reputation for no-nonsense compliance and fair training. They would rotate between warehouses, starting with Fort Dodge. The final confrontation came late Friday afternoon. A letter arrived from Derek's attorney, contesting his termination. Gregory read it in his office, the newly cleared-out corner space in the back of the warehouse, where Kevin's old desk had been. He handed the letter to Dana, who stood nearby. He's arguing he was following orders, Gregory said. Dana read through it and shook her head. There's no record of documented instructions to overload. And multiple employees confirmed he made those calls independently. Then we hold the line, Gregory said. No settlement. Let them file. Dana folded the letter and slipped it into her folder. Understood. Outside, the sunset hit the side of truck 5 as Tanya backed it into place. Gregory watched through the window as Luis rolled up the last bay door and signaled to the crew to start closing out. In the yard, the new hires were laughing about something as they coiled straps and stacked pallets. It wasn't perfect. It was early, but it was real. Gregory stood up and walked out to the floor without a word. He didn't make a speech. He didn't gather a crowd. He picked up a broom and swept the last of the packing debris into a bin. Tanya passed him on her way to the locker room. You know you don't have to do that. I know, he said, but I want to. Luis walked by a moment later, tired but steady. You sticking around for shift change? Gregory nodded. Figured I'd help load the first 2 routes. Luis offered a short nod of approval. Then grab a vest. Night cruise green as grass. Gregory put one on. Outside, the sky darkened. Inside, the warehouse kept moving steadily, safely, and together.